going to end up
Recording in
going up onto the YouTube channel for Boston Ujima project. So for folks who are feeling a little camera shy, now would be the time to turn off your video if you're not into it. Thank you again to Nia, Sierra, and Johnny Charles and Boston Ujima project for hosting us as part of the November A Loving Embrace Real Estate Assembly. You can check it out at necessarysystems/real estate. Lots of cool stuff coming up all the way through the end of the month, including Black Trust Lecture Series and Co-op Fund of New England, presenting all on the topics of real estate in our solidarity economy. So again, my name is Miriam G. I'm with Co.Everything, and this is a joint collaboration between Co.Everything and Boston Ujima project. I did want to give a special thanks to several folks we have tonight that have been part of the Dorchester Community Advisors Committee working on bringing this workshop to life with Travis Lee Development and Erie, Ellington, and Brinsley Partnership. So if your name is up here, Marilyn, Denisha, Marty, Jackie, David, who can't make it tonight, Lisette and Sharon, Dariella, Travis, and Milton, extra big thank you. Okay, so cool. So this is a little bit different. If y'all joined us in May, we've had to reformat this workshop so that it all consolidates into one 90-minute fun-filled evening. So here's what you can expect tonight. We're going to do a little bit of an introductions. For the first part, we're going to go into breakout rooms, and then I'm going to do some framing. We'll cover a lot of these topics very quickly. So real estate development basics, the public process and participation, financial models and the pro forma, affordable housing, alternative community investment, and then we have some follow-ups and Q&A. So the way that we're going to do this is each of these topics all has a YouTube video from someone in that group that you saw, the long list of folks who helped us put together this educational series about each of a deeper dive. So if any of those interest you in the end, we'll have videos that you'll be able to follow up. Cool. So what we're going to do in our groups of 3 is we're going to introduce ourselves, and we're going to say, what is one specific thing that your group wants to learn about tonight on the topic of real estate development and community investment. So again, this is not necessarily, you know, I want to learn about real estate development, like really specific. If somebody has one mysterious topic that they want to hear about, and just introduce yourselves. We'll give you about 10 minutes for each group to come up with one thing, and then decide who in your group is going to write down your response. And then when we all come back together, we'll share them back into the group via chat and read them out loud, and then we'll record them for our Q&A at the end of the session. So in case we didn't cover it already in the 90 minutes, we'll make sure to get to your special topics of the evening. So I'm going to stop share for a second, and we're going to go in. I know if y'all have been part of Ujima stuff, like nobody would be afraid from doing breakout groups and like sharing and introducing themselves and being pretty interactive. So we're going to go for it. Okay, how many folks do we have? 27. So we're going to go with 8 breakout rooms. Okay. Here we go. Hopefully we're going to come up with 8 amazing topics. So one specific thing that you want to learn about in this workshop. And don't forget to introduce yourselves. So here we are. Thank you. Here we go. Bye. Declan, you don't get to go. You have to stay and do tech. Good to see everyone. Hi. Bye. Oh, psych. Gotta click open all rooms. Miriam, come on, get with it. Oh, hi, Olive. Yay. Hi, Maggie. Oh, yay. So many people. Hooray. Thank you so much. You came back early. I hope y'all had some fruitful discussions. And I hope somebody came up with something that I never even thought about. That would be the exciting part. Like a question that we can't even answer. That would be the best.
I don't know if you can answer our question, but I would bet you have thought of it.
Ooh, nice, nice. Okay. Well, folks, thanks for coming back. We are ready to collect these amazing questions from folks or topics and hope we can get to them all tonight. So without further ado, whoever was the recorder or scribe or reporter for your group, could you type your topics into the chat? And then we're going to collect them and then put them in the end of our presentation and make sure we get to all of them. So thank you, folks. Just a second here. Where's my chat? Oh, there it is. Okay. Okay. So do we have any messages yet? Not yet. Anybody? Okay. Jackie's group. How can community residents participate in community development projects? Excellent question, Jackie. And from Home Fries Matthews, one thing our group was interested in is how community real estate ownership efforts can strategically partner with eviction defense groups like City like Vida Urbana to make sure that residents are stabilized and not displaced. Awesome, thank you. Okay, anything else? Keep them coming, keep them coming. Okay, Maggie's group, we talked about the fact that affordable housing often does not allow for the development of wealth. Is there a way to create housing that can be and stay affordable and also allows owners to build wealth? Interesting. And then Denisha would have some ideas around that. Not to put you on the spot, Denisha. And Ruth got how to make real estate more equitable in various ways that are in service to the local community, such as access to financing, green spaces, schooling, and healthcare. And Travis Lee, how do you start a community land trust? In fact, I've done an entire workshop just on that very topic. Travis, thank you. And then Madeline writes, we want to learn more about buying city-owned land. How can community members invest in community real estate? Excellent. Okay, so I think that's all the groups. Oh, one more. All right, from Alexandra. My group's interest was the following: learn more about community investing and buy city land. Awesome. Okay, well, let's all just start a community land trust together then. Let's get going. We're just switching gears. All right, I'm gonna go back to the screen share. Thank you so much, folks. And we're gonna do just this. Cool, so I feel pretty good that we can get to all of those things in our 90 minutes together this evening. So back to our framing. Surprise, the system is broken. What are we all up against? Stolen indigenous land and displacement of Native Americans, redlining and racist policies against Black and POC communities, buildings that account for around 40% of our carbon emissions, wealth and environmental inequality, and housing instability and insufficient government assistance programs. Welcome to Boston. Wait, there's still hope. Real estate for all to us means sharing knowledge and ownership. So today we are going to try and teach you the basics in a fun and engaging way. We are going to do some interactive storytelling where we identify key players and concepts in the real estate development process, find out ways that we can participate. It sounds like you folks are already thinking about city land, and then learn about alternative ways and models that we can invest in our community for less than $2,000 tonight. So, like I mentioned before, we put this workshop together with a whole bunch of neighborhood advisors from Dorchester, and we said if people are going to learn about investing in real estate in our neighborhood, we should learn about some of these topics so that we can make have a better understanding of what it is we're getting into. So all of these topics we'll cover tonight have a bunch of videos that go with them. And then after you decide if you wanted to opt into getting any of the videos, we can also, send along any information about community investments if you want to sign up for them. So I'm going to just play this little trailer here. This is a trailer for our YouTube series. So each of the videos are only like 7 minutes long. And If you can't hear it in the chat.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Real Estate for All. I'm Miriam G.
My name is Travis Lee.
My name is Denise McDonald.
My name's Jacqueline Cooper.
I am Marilyn Foreman.
I'm Declan Keefe.
If you live in the city, you ride around, walk around vacant lots or vacant buildings, and you see them for a while, they start to catch your imagination.
Developers are usually not architects. They're usually not general contractors. They're usually not attorneys. They're usually somebody who is good at managing a process.
The developer is like the captain of that ship.
The ship has sailed. The captain took us all the way there to our destination.
This gives community members an opportunity to have a say and a stake in their community.
So that everyone is able to own a piece of the rock.
High five if that was your hand.
Yay, thank you for sitting through our trailer. So hopefully you found that amusing. Anyway, you could see that we're trying to make it like really easy and accessible and fun. So check those out at the end if you want. Again, so we're getting started here. This is the broad overview of real estate development basics. We're gonna get started with a little bit of a story on how to start a real estate development project so folks can learn about the key players involved. So here we go. This is my cartoon, and we're gonna just have different members of our community here help me tell this story. So it all started with our friend Marilyn Foreman, the president of the Erie, Ellington, and Brinsley Partnership. So we're gonna create a little real estate development story here. So Marilyn, we're gonna say that you are a seller and a landowner, and you got a piece of land for sale. That's maybe where it starts. And the person that is hopefully gonna buy this piece of land from you is our developer, Jackie Cooper. So Marilyn, tell us about this piece of land that you've got for sale. And you can unmute yourself and go ahead and give us a little story. Your land, you're selling it for $2 signs. That's as much as I know right now.
So I have this parcel of land that I want to dispose of. I want to get rid of it. I want to sell it. And I don't know what's needed in the area or who might want it for what reason, but I'm interested. All bets, all offers on the table are good. So.
All right, so Jackie has heard about Marilyn, who's listed this piece of land, all offers on the table. She doesn't know what people want to build there. And Jackie is gonna be a good developer. And Jackie has deep ties in the community. So she's trying to go ahead and talk with the community, which is Dariella. So Jackie and Dariella are going to have a conversation about, you know, what are some things that we think the community might want. So Dariella, you want to share with Jackie what you've heard about this one particular piece of land that you know Marilyn's had for a long time?
I think the community's been interested in ways that local families can have some wealth building opportunities. So maybe creating some affordable homeownership opportunities that are accessible to those that live around us.
Jackie, what do you think about that?
I think that's a great idea. I have a few ideas of what we could put on the land. And so maybe we will we can talk about what we think would be the best solution for the families in the area.
Great. Well, it sounds like there's a budding partnership happening here, and maybe it's time to get Milton, our general contractor, involved to see if Milton thinks that we could maybe build some of these ideas that Jackie's got brewing after she's talked with Dariella and Milton. So, you know, take a look at this back of the envelope sketch that Jackie's got going on. It sounds like there's going to be some housing. It might be about wealth building. Maybe it's going to be a home ownership project. And what are you thinking about this site? Does this seem like we'll be able to build something here, or has this thing been on the market for a reason? You can't build there.
I think we
Milton?
will be able to build. I think we will be able to build here. I think we can get about maybe 14 units and some maybe a mixed space. So maybe some commercial space and 14 residential units. It's okay. It's okay.
Nice. Well,
Maybe a park for the baby.
well Jackie and Milton also know an architect named Madeline. Madeline's also an artist, it turns out. But, you know, in this instance, Madeline's going to be an architect and is going to work with this vision, maybe hear back from folks like Dariella and Milton, and maybe come up with a nice conceptual design. So Madeline, what do you think? Are you planning on maybe going back and doing some presentations to the community members? How are we going to get this thing moving forward?
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to come back to the community to give a presentation. I think their input on the design, since they want to live here, is really, really important.
Excellent. Okay, so thanks for doing that excellent design of 14 units with a mixed use space. We don't know what's going to go in that commercial space, but Milton and Madeline and Jackie have figured out that maybe it's possible. We don't know if the zoning is going to allow for it, but we think it's what the community wants. So as Madeline gives this presentation with Milton and Jackie back to Dariella and all the neighbors, Dariella, what are you feeling about this? Are you liking this?
I'm wondering how we're going to manage traffic with these 14 new units that are coming online, given the new construction aspect and adding the new families to the site.
Ooh, all those cars. Yeah, you forget when you house the people that usually come with cars. Okay, good question. So Jackie, you got any ideas on maybe how we can help manage traffic, or is this something that's just like push Dariella out of the way? We don't care about her concern for cars.
Well, I can push Dariella out of the way, but we know that that's never going to work. I'm going to have to figure out something, maybe have a traffic study done so that Dariella feels a lot more comfortable with what's going on.
Great idea. Okay, well, maybe there's going to be some alternative transportation options. Maybe we can work with the bike shares, or offer some shared zip car or parking spaces so that we can reduce the number of vehicles that we have on site, or the traffic study comes back and says it's actually all going to be fine. We don't know yet, but this is the beginning of finding out if these 14 units are going to work out here. Okay, so Dariella, what do you think? Is it like viable enough that after we did this transportation study and came up with some alternative ideas, that this is something we still want to pursue? You think people are going to want to own these units?
Yeah, I think that given that Jackie has promised to bring some affordability to these units, I think we can work around some of the traffic concerns.
And don't forget the park.
Oh, there's a park. You're building a park too, Jackie?
It's going to be part of the whole thing, family space.
Ooh, love it. Maybe like a corner park or something, a plaza maybe?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm liking this. This is sounding good. Okay, well, the next question is, Jackie, do you have money for this? Already the land is going to cost us $2 signs. Milton, how many dollar signs do you think this? Jackie just threw this park out there like it was no thing. She's like, yeah, we're just gonna throw a park in there. How many dollar signs do you think is this construction gonna be?
We're looking at about a whole $100 to build all this.
$100. Oh my God.
100. Times have changed. There's no inflation.
14 units in a park.
Oh, I'm a special kind of contractor. I love my people.
Okay. 14 units and a park for $100 plus $2 signs for the land. I think that Jackie, you're not going to be able to come up with that money. So you're going to have to go to the bank.
I'm going to have to go to the bank and start raising money because Lord knows where I'm going to get $100 from.
Oh my God.
Plus $2 signs. That's a lot of money. So I need to get some money from the bank for sure.
So we're going to talk to Declan over here. Declan's going to be our bank. So Jackie's coming with this appraisal of the land, the $2 signs, the $100 14-unit mixed unit commercial space with a park on the corner. And, you know, this has been a really good design. We've done a traffic study. So Declan, you got to tell Jackie how many dollars or dollar signs you're going to be willing to loan to Jackie.
Well, I like the project. I like that the community's behind it, which means likely you could get some support from zoning. But the park seems expensive. Maybe we could go $60 and we'll do a $1.50 signs. So we're somewhere around 70% total of your costs.
Okay, Jackie, what do you think? Will you take it? Will you take that 70%? Is that going to do it for you?
I'll take it for now, but I guess I'm going to have to reach out further. But thank you, Declan, for your generous offer.
Okay, so a loan from the bank for $1.50 signs and $60 to build this project. Can she do it? Jackie might have a little bit of her own money lying around somewhere, but you know, I think she's going to talk to some folks. She's known Marty for a really long time, and Marty is apparently a giant pile of cash. So
money, money, money. I just have so much of
it. So Marty, I think she's coming to you for some cash. She doesn't want a loan. She's like, we gotta fill the rest of the gap. How are we gonna pay for all of these $100 and $2 signs to build this project?
Well, since you've already got some financing from the bank and that's a significant amount, I feel like this project seems like it's going to happen. It seems secure, seems like the community's into it. I could probably bring a cool $20 to this.
Okay. $20. Look at that pile of money. That's at least $21 bills right there. All right. So Marty's into it. So Declan, I'm sure had, some, percentage on the loan. Marty's also going to want, some little percentage, right, Marty, on
a little
return, a little bit. So some increments of $20 or the $60 that Declan's loaning. So Jackie and Marty, what do you think, Jackie, you want to offer to Marty for that investment?
Well, my mind is just still flooded with, I still need $20 and half of a dollar sign. And so I know I'm still going to have to reach out for some money and make some deal, but I would like to give Marty X% as a return for her money.
X% will get me part of the way there. I'm gonna make you a counter offer of X to the Y 0.5%. Will you accept it?
I'll accept it, Marty. Thank you. For
These are tough negotiations, but we've come out on the other side.
We're on the other side.
All right, so Marty is on board. Marty is invested in this concept. What about Denisha? Denisha, you're actually representing a whole bunch of different people, just neighbors in the community. Maybe there's going to be some crowdfunding happening, and Jackie wants to offer this up to lots of different people in the neighborhood. And you somehow represent multiple voices in the community. What do you think about this project, and what kind of offer, we'll see what Jackie might offer to you as a community member investing in this project.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great project. I hope that they will offer it to us so that we can invest in it also, because I want to have, a stake in that project. I think it will help us as a community care a little bit more because we own a little piece of it. So just wondering, what's the rate of return? Do we get something for it, or we just give you money and we get to say we own 2% or 0.001% of that building? How's it work?
Oh no, I'd like to offer Y% to the people, to the investors that are coming on board. That way they have some return for their money.
Okay.
That sounds
over
good, Jackie.
time.
So are you offering, like, if Denisha puts in $1, let's say Denisha puts in $1 and Denisha's neighbor puts in $1 and somebody else puts in $1, they're gonna get 1% every year. Oh, sorry, Y% every year on that dollar. And maybe that's the same amount that you're gonna get on your money that you put in, Y%.
Yes,
Equal,
I mean,
equal.
I'm going to get Y% on my money. I'm offering you Y%. So the community investors, you're part of my team. You're part of my investment team. So, you'll have information on the project in return for your investment, because it is an investment. It's not like you're just giving me money. It's an investment to you.
I like that. Okay. And what if I need my money sooner? So like I wanted to get, I invested today, but something came up and I need my money next year.
Well,
do I get it back or do I have to walk away?
No, we'll have terms for people, because we do know that it is a community project and that people may need some of their money back. So we'll have terms that are included with different steps of when you get your money back. Of course, you won't make as much as if you had left the money in the whole time, but we'll try to make some compensation for you.
That sounds awesome. Sign me up.
Okay.
Oh, Jackie, are you taking all the risk on this in case everything goes sideways? We're not putting community members like the banks out of the way. The bank's like, I'm getting my money. Jackie's going to take it all on because she knows she can do it. And she's got the community with her on her side. Is that you, Jackie, taking all that risk?
Yeah, I guess it's Jackie, because Jackie's the developer and that's what it's all about.
Okay, sounds like, dun, dun, dun. We might finally be ready to approach the zoning board. And why would we be going to the zoning board? Let's say that we're going to the zoning board because Marilyn, your land was actually zoned for, I don't know, like a triple decker or a few triple deckers, but definitely not 14 units, a park, bike share, car share, and a commercial space. So Jackie, we're gonna have to have you talk to the zoning board. So this is Sunith, and you got Madeline, you got Milton, you got Dariella, everybody's there with you presenting to the zoning board to ask for some zoning relief to change what could be allowed there to something to what the community wants and will own.
Right, I'm going to go in. I have community support. I have a respected contractor and architect. I have my funding sources put together so that I know I can complete the project. And it's something that the community wants. We've done the studies to satisfy their concerns about the traffic, and we're all set to go. And it is affordable. It's an affordable property so that we are contributing to the city's affordable housing pool.
Sunith, what do you think? What do you and all of these zoning board people think? The neighbors, the abutters, you're everybody right now.
Got it. Hey, Jackie, thanks for the presentation. Love the design and everything, but no, wait. We have some concerns. One, like you already knew coming in that this is not a zoned use. You're asking for too much to build in small space. It was only zoned for the triple decker. Now you want 14 units, so that's 11 more units, and then it's a mixed use. And I want to know what the mixed use is. You keep talking about retail. Is it going to be a bar, liquor store? What is it? What's going on? So we need more information. And then once you pick the use, and then we'll want to see that the community supports that use. So we'll probably would like to see you back again. This proposal has, we like it in a way, but we can approve it in its current form. So like
Classic zoning board, classic zoning board. Okay, well, it sounds like it's a bit back to the drawing board. Maybe Dariella knows some folks in the community who like have wanted to open a business there. And Dariella, you think we can make one last pitch to the zoning board and Jackie, just so that we can wrap up this exercise and get ourselves a building permit?
Can we go to the neighborhood association and the abutters and see if we can make a case there?
That
Better
sounds
to have
good to
them go to the
me.
zoning
Yeah,
board.
let's do that. But it definitely was not our intent to have a bar there. I mean,
Well, there's got to be
14
somebody's got to, maybe we're going to be offering a community space for a nonprofit that's everybody's favorite neighborhood association that's just been meeting, you know, at the library this whole time. That sounds like a pretty good use for the space. They're going to do workforce training. I made it up right now.
Yeah, something easy breezy. Maybe even like a cafe, so that the parents could come and have coffee and tea while they're watching the kids play in the park. Something nice.
That sounds good. Maybe we'll get somebody, you know, out of a kitchen training program. So that'll be cool. So we got a local business who's going to start up a bricks and mortar. It's being presented back to Sunith. Maybe we're going to knock off like one floor of housing. It's just going to be, you know, 8 units now. And this community cafe where parents can hang out while their kids are playing at the playground. So zoning board, will you give us the yes?
That this project now seems like something we can support. I think you've listened to the community, and the cafe idea is great. I mean, creating jobs and then a use like that we can support. You're good to go.
Da, da,
Thank
da.
you,
Yay!
Denise.
We did it. Okay, well, so everyone, that was just a little bit of illustration of all of the public process that one may encounter in a real estate development world where buildings cost only $100, land only costs $2 signs, and you can go to the bank and get a loan like that. So in the real world, of course, things take a lot longer, but we did want to illustrate to you how important it is to have the community involved in your process, and that there's compromise, right? Everybody was compromising in all of the things that were presented, but in the end, we did get closer to something better than nothing, better than poor Marilyn standing there with her empty lot with nothing to do. So thank you, Jackie. Thank you, everyone. So we're going to do a little bit now on this public process and how we can participate as folks who live in Boston, things like the request for proposals and other ways to participate. And full disclosure, I am but a normal human being, architect person, and I am not a city employee, but I'm gonna do my best to talk about this in an accessible way in regular words. So who is involved with permitting and zoning? The Inspectional Services Department, or ISD, is in charge of reviewing applications, issuing permits, inspecting the work, and enforcing building codes. And then Boston Planning and Development Agency, BPDA, reviews things like Article 80, which is a small projects process, analyzing zoning code amendments. And the Zoning Board of Appeal, which was who Sunith was playing in the story, is approving or denying any zoning or building code appeals. So if you have to get a hearing because you wanted to put 8 units in a place with a cafe that was not allowed for, you'd have to go through that process. So those are some of the folks and entities who are involved with making a building get started in our city. And then zoning code, its purpose is to provide regulations on what kinds of buildings can be built in different zones throughout the city. So like Sunith said, this was for a triple decker. So how tall is your building? How wide is it? How many apartments or units can it have? How much parking is required? Oh, we didn't even get into that. How much green space or open space is required on the front or the back of the lot, or the whole lot in general? And so if the project is as we say over here on the right, it says as of right. That means it complies with all of the building and zoning code requirements, which these days is pretty hard. It's very infrequent that you present a project and it already complies with everything, which should mean it needs no zoning relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals. And then the permit issues after ISD and all the other agencies review it. Maybe the Parks Department would have to review Jackie's because she said she's going to put a park in there, or the BPDA or landmarks, because Marilyn's land was actually like on a historic landmark. So if all of those are fine, they'll say your project's as of right and you can just sail on through. But in the more likely case, like in our story, whenever a project needs zoning relief, that's when you, your neighbors of any buildings can get involved. So surprise, surprise, ZBA hearings are open to the public and not everybody thinks they're exciting or wants to go. But in this little flow chart over here from the city of Boston, you can see after you file your permit, and there's this intake process, there's going to be this moment when there's going to be an abutters meeting. So maybe you've received a flyer or a postcard before in multiple languages telling you that a new project is coming. And if you live in this radius near projects, you are invited to participate and you can share your opinions, ask questions, and then ultimately, and this is something I highlighted with a little green check mark, the ZBA is the one who makes the decision. But like you saw in our story, Denise, even though he's representing this whole board, is saying, well, ultimately, because you had support from the community is why I'm going to grant an approval of this. The community doesn't really have the ultimate say, but they want to support projects that are supported by neighbors. So you can actually go online and look at an entire map of the city of Boston and see all these different projects and where they're happening. You could even show up if you're not in a butter, but you live pretty close by to a project. So for folks, it's not always like the most exciting thing, but for folks who want to see part of that process, that's kind of a cool way to find out about it. So another thing about city land, since that came up as a topic, the request for proposals process. The Department of Neighborhood Development's D&D is responsible for, this is from their website, housing the homeless, developing affordable housing, and managing the city's real estate, which sometimes means, you know, getting other people in possession of that real estate. So D&D sells city property to developers, maybe like Jackie, who want to make the community better through a competitive process called request for proposals. So imagine if Maryland was the city. Instead, she would be offering a parcel of land and say, developers, come and give me your best proposal. Show me your bank statements, show me you got the financing, show me that you meet all of the BPDA, ADA, affordability metrics. And we're going to choose, after we have some hearings with neighbors, you know, who's the best developer for this project. So when they're selecting a buyer or a developer, the city's looking for their price and proof of financing. Do you have the money and can you really get it? Their experience with development. And by law, the city can only choose a buyer who meets all the RFP requirements that are outlined. They're pretty long. Maybe you've been involved actually, if you're part of a neighborhood association, in creating the qualifications that go into this document that you know, has folks looking for RFPs. So 2 questions the city considers. Will the current real estate market support the development? Are you proposing a luxury skyrise and that's not really going to work in our neighborhood? Does the local community want the property to be developed? Actually, this property's been an informal community garden for a long time and folks don't want housing there. It's not really the best use for it. So those are some of the things that they're considering. So when the city gets the community involved, it's because they're ready to sell. So these meetings happen in public. These days they happen online, and you can help shape the requirements for the request for proposals as being part of your neighborhood associations. And then developers will also present their ideas back to the community for feedback. So if you attend any of these developer-led community meetings involving RFPs, you can share your opinion on what things you would like to see go nearby. So maybe you've had a chance to get involved with that. Maybe you haven't. If you haven't heard of it, I know it's pretty exciting for some of us here who are involved, but can be pretty tedious also. These RFP processes take a really long time. Okay, so we're moving on to financial models. We're going to talk about what is a pro forma, How do you fund a real estate development project? And what are the challenges and opportunities of balancing finances? Okay, so first thing, what's a Performa? Everybody's probably heard this term in different scenarios. Sometimes you're talking about business. In this case, we're talking about real estate development. So we're talking about buildings and land. So this is a Performa analysis. It's a big set of calculations, usually in an Excel spreadsheet, super exciting, that estimates the financial return that a proposed real estate development is likely to create. So in order for Jackie to be able to go to Marty and Denise and even the bank and say like, okay, I can give you X to the Y%, or you can get Y%, or what we're projecting is we're gonna get Y% if we invest in this project, it's because Jackie did a pro forma. And it's essentially like a go, no go analysis. It's like, if let's say Marilyn decided to say the land now costs $3, it's possible there would be a no-go on that project. That might have made it too expensive, and then there would have been no returns. You couldn't have paid back the bank loan. You know, maybe even going from 14 units down to 8 units, Jackie might have had to go back and like offer, you know, less returns for people in this whole deal. We kind of skipped through that point, but that's what you use the Performa for. So we're gonna do a quick little interactive brainstorm, and this is pretty low stakes. So in regular people words, we're going to try and figure out where does the money go. And you're going to type it into the chat. And as we name a few of these things, it's like the first category. What are the costs of developing a project? So a new building, I put some little emojis next to here if you guys needed some help. And I'm going to type them from the chat into this little brainstorm here. And then we're going to talk about what are the costs once the building is built. And so as you can think of these things, we'll just type them in. And then finally, how will the project bring in money after it's built? And in a very simple way, these are all the things that would go into your project's Performa. So let's start out first here on the top. What are the costs of developing a project? So in our story, we started with Marilyn. And maybe send it along, people. Send me your chats. Okay, we've got land, construction, labor, architecture, and legal. Okay, so land, I'm putting that thank you, Home Fries Matthews. That is going on the top with my little marker point here. This one for construction. And then maybe this ends up being labor also. Legal, that's going to be some paperwork here, and architecture. Okay, and then thank you. And then how about an engineer also? Yes, we had that traffic study. And then anybody can throw them out also, like what are the costs once the building is built? So what are the things we have to continue to pay for after the building is built? Send them into the chat, folks. Utilities, okay, yep. Heating, cooling, management, taxes, water. Oh man, insurance, debt, yeah. Real estate management, upgrades, maintenance. I always like to put this snowflake here for snow removal. Okay, yeah, lots of things can happen after the building's built. We're probably all pretty familiar with that for folks who have ever rented. Cool, thank you. Okay, so what about how will the project bring in money after it's built? We got 8 units and we got this cafe and we got a park. Maybe there's a zip cars and a bike share. So where's the money coming in to pay for all of these things? Is this a rental or a home ownership? I think Jackie said that folks wanted home ownership. So maybe we get it started with, we're gonna sell some units, home ownership sales. Anything else? Anybody, maybe this community cafe is gonna pay a little bit of rent. Commercial rents from the community cafe, or maybe we're gonna sell it, we don't know. We didn't say. And maybe something else. Anybody else? Community investment, rental property and business. Okay, leasing, revenue from the zip cars. Okay, cool. Zip car revenues. That's true. I don't know. I've never had zip cars, but I'm sure they got to pay somebody to park those cars around here. So cool. Awesome. Oh, a solar farm. Nice. Okay, cool. We're going to put a solar farm on there. See, that came straight from the zoning board. That's from Sunit. So it's okay. We got to pass. All right. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that little brainstorm. Okay, cool. So that was kind of like a very high level, what goes into a pro forma. So we figured out what are all the costs of things and maybe some money that's going to come in. So now, how do we get the money to pay for all this stuff? We talked about construction, architecture, legal, buying the land itself. So how are these things funded? The developer needs money to pay for all this stuff. So typical sources might be debt from a bank, like the First Bank of Declan, in the form of a loan or a mortgage. Debt from a bank could also mean a credit union. It could be equity from private investors, cash. For example, that might have been Marty in the story. And the developer's own equity, cash. So Jackie might have put in cash also. Grants and donations, maybe because it's a historic landmark. There's a foundation that wants to put money in to help preserve that landmark. Public funds, which might be in the form of a loan. And if Jackie happened to be a nonprofit housing developer, we never talked about the affordability, she might be getting tax credits, which is pretty complicated, but that might be a way that we would be able to pay for these awesome buildings. So what does that mean? Development is a process. It's all about balancing the finances. So all of these challenges and opportunities come with a cost, right? Like we said, there's going to be changes in the landscape, traffic. It's going to affect ecosystems and habitats. On the other side, it's also creating jobs and more curb appeal compared to an empty site. More local ownership can bring neighbors together. There's always a discussion about affordable to who. Is this for long-term residents? Is this for renters? Is this for homeowners? There's the kind of push and pull between maintaining the character of a neighborhood and also like the never-ending housing crisis and growth that we see in the cities we live in. So we're trying to meet all of the neighborhood's desires for housing, commercial space, green space, parking, while improving infrastructure and having healthy buildings, and then also making sure that our buildings have a good social and environmental and economic impact. So we don't want to be contributing to that typical 40% of emissions of our buildings either. Carbon emissions. So all of this goes into the pro forma, and it just is going to tell us if this is a go or a no-go project. So this is the only section where I'm going to try to use some jargony words. Other than that, hopefully it's all just regular people words. But an accurate pro forma estimates if the net operating income, which is NOI, and cash. So the income, what makes money? So we said home ownership sales, the commercial rent, some revenue from zip cars, minus the operating expenses, what costs money. So that's going to be, you know, the maintenance, et cetera, taxes, improvements, is a net operating income. Then somebody also mentioned you're going to have to pay back your loan, right? So minus your debt service, your mortgage to the bank or interest to the investors will give you your net income or the cash left over. So when there's any cash left over, that's who it can be distributed to the investors and owners of the development. So in this illustration, we've got a whole bunch of community members. So Denisha represented a whole bunch of people. Marty was in there as an investor, and Denisha, Jackie, and Marty all owned this together. So if there's any cash left over, it can go towards the owners of that project. So typically in the big picture, just so that you know, it's not like when you hand over the rents every month, that's all just going directly into the developer's pocket. So for example, 70% of the project cost is typically construction. 80% of the funding would come from the bank loan. 35% of the income per year would go towards paying for operating expenses, and 45% of the income per year could go towards paying off the bank loan. So those are pretty like broad examples. They're not necessarily like related to any specific project, but so in our project cost, the $100 was the cost of construction. 80% of the project came from the Bank of Declan, and then all of the income paying for operating expenses and paying off the Bank of Declan loan. So in the end, if you're not charging market rate rents, it could mean that there's not a lot left in profits. But we're happy to pay everybody to do good design and make housing and have contractors who get paid a living wage. So that's also important. So affordable housing in quotes. What we're talking about here is income restricted housing and common ways affordable housing is paid for. So we often hear the phrase affordable housing and then ask ourselves, affordable to who? So I'm sure many of you have felt that way before and have thought that. And the reason why we like to say maybe income restricted housing instead of affordable housing is because it's not a very good name for the product because it doesn't involve everybody's experience. So income restricted housing is reserved for folks earning below a certain income based on your household size and your total income. Sometimes you have to apply for a lottery to get a spot for an income restricted unit, and it can also be for renting or home ownership. There are services like again, I'm not from the city of Boston, but the Boston Housing Authority also has voucher programs that are hard to get, but people get them. So they're based on your income limits and certain characteristics. And as that, if you have a voucher, you only pay 30% of your income every month. And then the Boston Housing Authority will pay the remaining to the landlord. And this could be any private property that accepts vouchers. And it can be renters or first-time homeowners. They also have a home ownership program where those payments can go towards a down payment on a home. So what does this mean? Area median income is what determines whether or not you fall into this category of people who can rent in certain units that are income restricted, and it's all based off of a calculation of a very large catchment area. Area median income in Boston includes like really huge, like all the way to New Hampshire and all the suburbs. So we'll also talk about neighborhood median income. So for example, if you look at all of these numbers here on the right, and we looked at 100% area median income for Boston, that means one person making $79,000 or less, or a household of 4 making $113,000 or less. So if you think about a really big picture and you're right in the middle, the median is in the middle, the most people have that. That means there's a lot of people below that and there's a lot of people above that. So depending on your experience, you could be nowhere close to the area median income. For example, households in Dorchester, the median neighborhood income in Dorchester is $54,000 per year or $4,500 per month. And the majority are families, and some are one-person households, and the majority are renter occupied. So you can see that that number is really far off from the larger Boston area median income. So that's why when we talk about affordable housing, people are often saying affordable to who. So how is affordable housing often paid for, or income restricted housing? It could be in the form of grants or donations in cash, tax credits like we talked about, which is complicated, public funds like a low interest loan. Maybe you're going to get the land at a discounted price like folks are implying from the city. And maybe there's government assistance programs from taxes like vouchers. So like we said, with the system that we live in, there's going to be a same cost. The building doesn't cost less when it's affordable. So you have to find other ways to get money to help pay for the building. So what do we have left? Alternative community ownership models. So since not all of those solutions can meet the needs of everybody in our community, we've been turning to alternative community ownership models, and we aren't necessarily looking at the typical affordable housing models. We're kind of like a yes and firm. We try to go for as many different models that work to bring more housing to the community. So this next section is not about investment advice or legal advice. We're going to present some things to you that are alternative, and it's going to be up to you to decide whether or not you think any of them are interesting for yourself. So here we go. We did start talking about community land trusts. So if anybody's got a chance, if you can think of any, just drop some names into the chat of community land trusts in the Boston area. Seems like people were pretty excited about community land trusts since it came up in discussion. I'll talk a little bit about them as you guys drop those names into the chat. A community land trust is typically a nonprofit business, and it has a dual ownership of houses and land. And often it works around leasing land in a perpetual affordable model, maybe for a 99-year lease, where the community land trust holds the responsibility of the land perpetually and has a strong base with its neighbors. And it has an expansionist acquisition model where they're trying to get as much land as possible into the land trust. And then it is governed by a board of directors. So maybe you've heard of DSNI or the Chinatown Community Land Trust, the Boston Farms Community Land Trust. There are many out there. So you can see in this illustration here, the house might be owned by an individual, it could be owned by a co-housing or a nonprofit, and they're leasing the footprint of the land from the nonprofit community land trust. So the land trust is trying to take the land off of the speculative market, but as it exists as a nonprofit, it's also, you know, relying on gifts and donations, tax and grant funding. It might have been a gift of the land in the first place that got the community land trust started. So that's how those are governed. We are also big fans of real estate cooperatives. If anybody knows of any real estate cooperatives, you can drop them into the chat. Some of our favorites are East Bay Permanent Real Estate Co-op in Oakland, and also there's the Northeast Co-op in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And so this is has a similar mission to a community land trust, but is actually cooperatively owned by its neighbors, where individuals buy shares and democratically govern and decide what to do with the land. So you may still do the same thing, where you might have a land co-op made of community residents and impact investors who are leasing the land to different local businesses. You may have a housing cooperative, like the GP Housing Co-op and several housing co-ops around, where individuals are residents who all collectively own together and democratically decide how they govern and use their space. And then there's also solar cooperatives. I think there's some folks on the call that are part of Co-op Power Boston. So solar co-ops are made up of residents and community members and impact investors, and all of those have a one member, one vote basis. So it's a little bit different than the community land trust, which runs based on a board governance. And so instead, in the one member, one vote basis in all of these co-ops, it's a democratic governance system. Okay, so the hot topic for tonight that we get really excited talking about is real estate crowdfunding. So a couple of years ago, one of maybe the weirdest things that came out of the Jobs Act was this Regulation CF. So if anybody's never heard of it, I wouldn't be surprised. But what it allows folks to do is regular people like you and me, non-accredited investors, can invest debt or equity in a community development project alongside the development team if somebody decides to open up their project, like Jackie did in the illustration, to have regular neighbors own a piece of the building. It always happens on a platform online. They always need to set a goal for a minimum raise, and they must hit their goal in order to move forward. So kind of like an Indiegogo campaign, if you don't hit the threshold, it doesn't go, the money doesn't go anywhere. And then there's also a maximum amount of money that can be raised through crowdfunding per company per year. It's not a donation like Indiegogo. It's just actual ownership of debt or equity in a real project. And in this instance, we're talking about real estate. So even though you can crowdfund various things, Regulation CF, in this instance, we're talking about crowdfunding real estate. So who can invest in Regulation CF projects? Regular people can invest, which means you're a non-accredited investor. Anyone who is 18 years or older, who makes less than $200,000 per year, $300,000 if you have a spouse, with a total net worth of less than $1 million when their primary residence is excluded. This is most people. So this is anyone in the US can invest in Reg CF, and it's not state specific. Accredited investors too can invest in Regulation CF. That's just less exciting because accredited investors can invest in anything all the time. And I think you would know if you're an accredited investor, pretty much just means you have a lot of money. So you've always been able to invest in everything. So crowdfunding limitations. Each person annually can invest up to $2,200 in individual crowdfunds. So, in all crowdfunds. So if you decided to invest in one project a year, $1,000, you'd only have $1,200, that you could invest in other crowdfunding projects for that year. Yes, and so it's either $2,200, which I'm just saying as the example, or 5% of their greater income or net worth. So for example, if you live in Dorchester and you had the median income of $55,000, you could invest 5% because that's greater than 2,200. So you could invest up to $2,750 per year in crowdfunded Reg CF projects on different platforms. Okay, so on to community investments that you can make now in Dorchester that are less than $2,000, because I'm sure you're thinking, that's all great and stuff, but where are the actual things I can put my money into because I want to support something that supports my values. So the first thing that we're going to show you is the Dorchester Food Co-op. And full disclosure, I am a member of the Dorchester Food Co-op, and Co.Everything is also the architect for the Dorchester Food Co-op. And we also made this beautiful website. So I'm a little bit biased, but if anybody is a Dorchester Food Co-op member, hello, how are you? I know all of you are, several folks on this call are. So this is actually not a regulation CF. This is a direct public offering. We did want to show it to you because they are coming up with a bricks and mortar store. So in a way, investing in this cooperative grocery store, which is locally owned, a worker-owned co-op, you're also having an opportunity to invest in real estate. So indirectly, you know, this is a real estate project. It's going to be at 195 Bowdoin Street. And you can see a little bit what it looks like to come and consider a direct public offering. So the DPO is a minimum of $2,000 per household, and DPO shares cost $100 each. And the offering is open to Massachusetts residents only. So you can go to dorchesterfoodcoop.com/invest. And you can invest by reading here. And so there's an investment memorandum, which describes the whole offering. And then you'll be able to sign some paperwork and then send in a check if you decide that you want to invest in the co-op. And so here's all the offerings they have, but also kind of the interesting thing about investing in a co-op as opposed to a regular business is you can be a member and you can also participate in co-op governance. So, you'd click here and you'd go on the DFC offering memorandum, which will be a long document that outlines what is being offered and the percentage return that's being offered. And then you can print the subscription agreement and mail in your payment. So anyway, that's something that exists and is real. Another co-op right now that we just launched earlier is Co-op Power Boston. So we had a big launch party at the beginning of the month, kicking off the Necessary Systems Real Estate Assembly with Ujima. So Co-op Power Boston is part of a regional community energy cooperative co-op called Co-op Power. And in Boston, we have our first project coming up. And it's going to be a solar array power purchase agreement on the rooftop of 195 Bowdoin Street, which is also the location of the future Dorchester Food Co-op. So you can go to cooppowerboston.com. We just created this landing page and it shows you the member benefits. So you can click on member benefits and find out what are the things that are offered. And then you can sign up. There are 2 different types of ownership models. I believe if you make less than, I think it's $30,000, you can qualify for a limited resource membership. So it's $500 membership for life. And then if you have an income of more than $30,000 a year and a certain amount of assets, you would qualify for a standard membership. Either way, you have the same membership benefits. So check it out because a lot of them are related to solar. So, you'll be able to get some fossil fuel freedom consultation, participate in subscription solar electricity, have a member vote, and get some discounts on solar PV system installs and stuff like that. What'd you say? Okay, so if you would like to invest, you can click on the I'm interested button and you can just put in your name here, and then actually Ruth and Olive, who are both here from Co-op Power Boston, will get in touch with you and can send you the membership forms. And if you just go here, it's not actually filling out the form, but it'll get you towards getting invested and becoming a member owner of Co-op Power Boston. Okay, so moving on to real estate Reg CF crowdfunding platforms. So let me take that. crowdfunding platforms to check out. So there are 3 platforms that we wanted to lift up to bring awareness to folks. So the first one is called smallchange.co, which focuses primarily on real estate, and we'll walk you through that one. There's also raisegreen.com, which focuses primarily on sustainability offerings, and mainvest.com, which focuses primarily on brick and mortar businesses. So all of these are Regulation CF platforms. Like folks may have heard, there are a lot of people here from Dorchester working on a specific project together. We were hoping to have something to show you specific to our project, and that may be coming soon. So very soon, and hopefully by the end of the month, if you were to check out the Necessary Systems website, you will see perhaps a Boston Dorchester specific offering on this website. For now, you will just see a bunch of other projects from other places. But I'm going to walk you through the website anyway so that you can get acquainted with it and see how it works. So small change, again, you can go to the projects tab and you can select all of these different types of qualifiers for different kinds of real estate projects. So let's say if we go to affordable housing. So well, let's pretend we live in San Francisco, or actually you could live anywhere. But today we're going to look at this BIPOC home ownership with the San Francisco Community Land Trust, since we had so many folks interested in the land trust. So this just gives you a video and a description of the offering. You can see here that they're trying to raise $100,000. And this is in the Reg CF. And so far they've raised $36,500 with 15 investors and 28 days left to invest. If you click through here, there's a whole bunch of stories about the project. So it looks like they're trying to work on 40 residential apartments, and 17 of them have been renovated. And so I believe this project is asking for debt and a 9-year return. So you would click on this disclosure packet, which will bring you to a pretty long document that explains all of the legality of the structure, including the pro forma. And then you would go here to add some change if you were interested, and you would sign up and create a password. So it doesn't exactly take you through all the way to the end where you have to put in your bank information and do an ACH. But you can at least just click on the investor disclosure packet, and then after you sign up is when you'll be able to move all the way through to sign up if you decide that after you read all these forms that you do want to invest in the project. So that's just an introduction to show you what's out there. We'll follow up soon. And first, before we close out with our questions, I'm going to launch a quick Zoom poll. So if anybody is interested in more information on all of these things, go ahead and take a second and click on any of the things you're interested in. And since we all registered in the Zoom, you'll be able to get a follow-up email from us afterwards. So we can send you the Real Estate for All explainer videos, and we can also send you Dorchester Food Co-op investment or membership info, Co-op Power Boston, about crowdfunding, and then maybe there's something else. I don't know, maybe folks are interested in more community land trust stuff, so that might be kind of the something else. Email me to find out. So we've got 11 votes in, so how about half, 60% of folks have voted. Thank you so much, everybody. I know I was just talking at you for a very long time, but hopefully you found that informational and useful. And of course, if any of those topics happen to be like, I really always wanted to learn more about the request for proposals process, we have a video on that. And so we'll send that out to you. And hopefully you'll learn even more about it in a few more videos from fun people like Marilyn, Travis, Denise, Declan, Jackie, and myself. Okay, cool. So 80% of people have voted. So now we're going to move on. Maybe I'll leave it open. Can I continue to move on to the Q&A? I think I can. Cool. So I'll just leave that open in case folks are still voting. Okay, so we're going to do some questions now. So how can community residents participate in community development? Okay, I need to end this. It's blocking everybody. End the poll. Okay, share results. Cool. So lots of folks interested in the videos. We'll be sure to follow up. and many other things as well. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to close this out. Okay, I think I did it. Awesome. So how can community residents participate in community development projects? We went through that with the different processes in the city, and then also with opportunities like Regulation CF or direct public offerings. How can community real estate ownership's efforts partner with eviction defense groups to make sure that residents are stabilized and not displaced? I will say that personally, I know that through Boston Ujima Project, we have been trying to work with City Life Vida Urbana on specific things like creating funds or avenues for funds to go directly to organizing efforts, where they're often looking for a really quick turnaround to get some money to fund the purchase of a house that may be going into foreclosure and therefore could result in the eviction of certain tenants and residents that have been in a neighborhood for a long time. So that may be like a specialized case, but I think creating funds or working with existing impact investment funds and partnering them with nonprofits to allow them to have a way to access quick cash is one way that I think we can talk about helping people have rent stabilization. Okay, so a question, the next one. Affordable housing often does not allow for the development of wealth. Is there a way to create housing that can be and stay affordable and also allows owners to build wealth? Let's see, has anybody ever heard about a modified deed restriction? In which case, so for example, let's say that affordable housing often says, okay, we've given you, let's say there's a city's assistance program that's given you a certain amount of money towards a down payment. And then when you've kind of like come to the end of the time that you want to live in this house and you want to move out and sell your house, there's going to be a deed restriction on it that says you can or cannot continue to sell this house for a certain amount, and you're going to have to give that money back so that it goes back into the program. Then people often say, hey, well, that sucks. Like, we paid this mortgage this whole time and we haven't been able to kind of get the market rate available sale price of this house. Declan, do you want to fill in for me here? Spotlight yourself.
So the idea of the modified deed restriction is that if you're not doing capital A affordable housing, you don't have to specifically follow those caps on the resale. And so we could actually create a modified deed restriction that says it's not just at inflation, but it's you could sell at 3% or 4%. And a lot of the reason that I think community land trusts or community land cooperatives have a real sort of interesting opportunity is that if we can get some land donated, say, and we can lock in long-term affordability, we don't have to lock it in at just the rate of inflation. We could lock it in at something above inflation so that there is still an opportunity for a return above just however much things have increased in inflation. So this is a pretty technical one, but that's one of the things that we could start looking at is not just using the template deed restrictions that we have, but really digging in with some attorneys on some other ways and models and methods of allowing for some appreciation and value gain without letting it be uncapped like market rate housing is.
Yeah, you can put a deed restriction on anything you want. I mean, if people are cool with deed restrictions, just put them out there, so it doesn't have to be just for affordable housing. You as a homeowner could decide that you want to put a deed restriction so that your house doesn't, happen to capitalize on the highest prices of the market and decide to make it perpetually affordable. So I did an on-screen share and then I am unable to pull that back up. Sorry. The last questions. How do you start a community land trust? We want to learn more about buying city-owned land and learn more about community investment. Okay. So in these last questions, because we're in the last minute, how to start a community land trust. Okay, so starting a community land trust is like forming a nonprofit business, and oftentimes you can organize and create a community land trust and build relationships with your neighbors, but then you're still going to need to operate this business, right? And the business is still going to need funding, and it's going to need land. So you have to think about that. There's more information about that in our videos. We can follow up. And then the next question was, sorry, buying city-owned land, which we covered in the RFP process. As a special interest aside of combining those last two questions, I can say also that the city of Boston is often interested in giving away certain properties to organizations like community land trusts. So that's how some of the largest community land trusts in Boston got started. I'm not sure if they're 100% behind just like giving parcels of land to random citizens like you and I, but maybe if we formed a land trust, then yes, people might be interested in giving you parcels of land. And then the last one was about being more involved in community investment, which I think we covered. Okay, 7:31, only 1 minute passed. So thank you very much, everybody, for coming. We have your information and we will follow up with YouTube videos. Thank you. Thank you, Marilyn. Thank you, Jackie. Thank you, Sunit. Thank you, Madeline. Thank you, Denisha. And thank you, Declan. Thank you, Boston Ujima Project. And of course, if you need anything, please do reach out to me. I'm dropping my email in the chat. And I know that there were a whole bunch of emails between me and Sierra, so thank you for making it tonight. I know that Zoom can be a little confusing, so we'll have a good night. Bye.